Hello and welcome to Racing Incident, a Formula One podcast in an American accent. I'm Anna, and joining me as ever again is the lovely, the talented, the very intelligent looking, I've just told her with her glasses, Tasha James.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm all
My Harry
right. How
Potter
are
glasses,
you?
yeah.
Yeah, well, they're not, I guess a little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but you're much cooler, I think, than here. Although,
I feel like having magical powers is kind of cool, so
true.
yeah,
That's why I stopped.
yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that would be pretty good.
Yeah, having a wand right now would actually be pretty cool, I think, yeah.
Would be very helpful. Would be very
Yeah,
helpful for so many things.
absolutely.
All right, we've got so much to talk about, guys. So
Yes.
just very quickly before we start, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if that's where you're watching us, even if that's not what you're doing, subscribe to it anyway. I don't care if you never ever go to YouTube another day in your life, just hit the subscribe button.
Hit the button, yeah.
And yeah, just hit the button, you'll still be counted. And comment, like the video, all those good things. Subscribe to us on all the podcast platforms, and don't forget to rate and review us there. We are trying to get to 100 ratings on Spotify and 50 ratings on Apple Podcasts. We're still a ways off from those, so please help us out. And also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, write us a review if you have a moment. It doesn't have to be long. Just like,
Yeah.
this podcast is awesome. You should check it out. There, done. I wrote it for you. You're welcome. uh, and of course, follow us on the socials. It's at racing_incident on both Twitter and Instagram. And tell people about us. That's word of mouth, very
Word of
important.
mouth, yeah.
And you can be part of the solution because it's a huge problem that
Yeah.
not everyone's listening to Racing Incident, obviously. So you can help us out there by telling your friend,
Help a girl
and then
out,
maybe they tell
yeah.
a friend. Yeah, and it just spreads from there.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, the
Ooh.
Canadian Grand Prix happened.
Yes, it did.
How are we feeling overall?
Honestly, overall, I actually didn't mind it that much. I mean, as usual, all the action happened from, P1, under P1.
Right.
So yeah, there was some interesting stuff that happened, and I think overall it was decent, there was one point
Yeah.
where I was like, maybe I could take a little like snooze, and wake up and toward the end. I was getting a little sleepy in the middle.
Yeah, there's always
But
like that
yeah.
one part, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I
Just
don't
like
think
lulls
there's
to sleep a
ever a
little bit,
race
yeah.
like that I don't feel like that ever happens really where there's a race where it's
Not that
like,
moment, yeah.
yeah, there's always
Yeah.
a moment like that for
Yeah.
sure where you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I wonder what's going on Twitter."
Right. Yeah,
Whatever the case may
after
be.
the first lap, they survive it or not, like that's usually when I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I can like
Yeah.
settle in and
Yeah.
like, yeah, move around,
It
do
was
stuff.
definitely it was pretty good though. I'd say I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I my enjoyment might have been enhanced by the fact that I didn't watch it live. I was at my parents' for we were
Mm,
having just like a Father's Day get together, and
nice.
happy belated Father's Day to everyone. If that means anything to you. When we are recording this on Juneteenth, it must be said.
Yes.
So,
Happy
yeah,
Juneteenth, everyone.
happy Juneteenth, everyone. Just in case you don't know what Juneteenth
Mhm.
is, quick moment of education. We like to do.
Teach the girls,
We
yeah.
like to do that. Yeah, yeah. If people don't know, it commemorates the time that it was in Texas
Galveston,
when it was
Texas,
a
yeah.
governor or the Emancipation Proclamation to free the slaves was signed like 2 years before
Mhm.
it, and so technically slaves were supposed to be freed, but in Texas they weren't.
Mhm.
And it was 2 years after that, so that was like the final
Yeah, they were the last
kind of,
ones kind of to get the news,
yeah, the
yeah.
last step. Yeah, and
That's
it was
wild.
on
Yeah.
June 19th. And so it started out, I think it started out initially being celebrated mostly just in Texas and the South more,
Hmm.
and then it kind of spread. And now it's
Yeah.
a national holiday. If you didn't know, it
Federal. Yep.
became one last year, which is very cool.
Hmm.
Although I feel like I
Love
saw a
it.
lot of
Yeah.
people out there today like working, and I'm like, I mean, I know that like not every, so I don't know if it's just gonna take a little time to
Yeah, I think so.
to get, since it was just last year that it became a national holiday. You don't see people working on Christmas, or I mean,
Right.
unless they're, I mean, obviously sometimes
That's
people do
true.
and they get paid
Yeah.
extra usually. So maybe they were getting
Yep.
paid extra for today too. I don't know. I
Let's
hope
hope.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping. Yeah. So happy Juneteenth, everyone, and happy belated Father's Day. So yeah, so I my enjoyment, like I said, was enhanced by, I think I had kind of a tough day
Mm.
with my son and other stuff that day already, and it was like a trying day. And then I got home and I watched the race, and I was like,
Yeah.
ah, I
Yeah.
feel. I was
Yeah.
like, this people racing at extremely high speeds around this track is oddly relaxing to me.
It's very relaxing, for as much as we like complain
Hmm.
about it and like it's kind of, a shit show
Yeah.
sometimes, it does have that, it's very comforting, like I will say,
Yes.
in some
Yes.
way. I don't know how, but it's very comforting. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think it's like the familiarity and the,
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I just like, I'm like the stereotypical person for sure that just likes to see the cars go around, like even if,
Yeah.
that's why I watch practice and I watch, not much happens
Qualies.
there.
Yeah. Mm.
But sometimes you
I'm the
do
same
hear
as you. That
interesting,
2 week break. Yeah.
yeah.
Usually that 2 week in between, like, I can't wait to watch the cars go around. And it's just like, yeah,
I
boring
know.
practice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just somehow it's like I have it on and I'm not paying as close attention usually to practice. Obviously, it's like qualifying in the
Yeah.
race, but yeah, it's just nice to watch. So yeah, so first things first. You might remember us talking on the last episode about how there's going to be this Danny Ricciardo and Will Arnett thing that
Oof.
ESPN is doing for 3 races. And you remember we weren't sure, but I did put it in the show
Hmm.
notes like I promised you. So hopefully you saw that if you wanted to check it out, although I am so sorry if you did. Um, the yeah, so it's just like it's called the Grandstand. And so yeah, Will Arnett and Danny Ricciardo basically just talk throughout the race. Like you can still see the race, but it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like a podcast,
They're
in
off to the
fact, with
side.
a race going
Yeah,
on.
that's what it felt like, kind of.
Yeah.
I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up watching the race twice. So I watched the normal feed with the normal
Ah,
commentary, and then I
yeah,
went and
yeah.
watched like the replay with the grandstand. And
Did you
yeah,
see
I
the
saw
whole
you.
thing?
I watched the whole thing.
The whole thing.
I
Oh my
suffered through the
God.
whew. thing. It was.
Okay. Oh, I'm gonna.
Whew.
Okay.
Did you
Okay.
not see the
I'm
whole thing?
gonna.
Did you turn it off at some point?
No, no. Let me just say what happened. So yeah, I started watching this thing because I'm like, okay, then later I'll just watch the race with normal commentary, and then I
Right.
wasn't able to finish anyway because we had to go to my parents, and I was like, but I'm like, okay, I'll start watching this at least so I get an idea of
Hmm.
what's going on, and then I can probably find it online later or something. So I'm glad you were able to. Well, I don't know if glad is the right term. Um. So,
Yeah.
I think like other people, we probably had like fairly, not necessarily high hopes, but we thought that it would be entertaining, I think,
Yeah.
because, it's Will Arnett and Danny Rick, everyone knows is, very personable and funny and all this.
Yeah.
I- it was a different Danny Rick that showed up for this, I
Yeah. It
think.
was almost didn't recognize him.
I
Yeah.
okay, so literally I could only stomach it for like I want to say maybe 10 minutes or something like
Oh,
that. Like
wow.
I did not get very far because I
Wow.
I mean part of it was that we did have to go, but honestly I don't think that
Right.
I would have kept watching even if I didn't have anywhere to be. It was just so bad. For
Yeah.
anyone that didn't see it, I mean apparently where did you it's a can is it on YouTube or
So I did on demand for ESPN. So if you have the ESPN app on your
Oh,
TV or,
okay.
on your phone or whatever, they have a on demand section
Okay.
where you can watch it. Yeah.
Okay. So that's
Yeah.
the way people can watch it if they have
Hmm.
that capability. If you don't, Listen, you're not
You're not
missing
missing
anything.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, I only got. I mean, it was.
Awkward,
I
right?
I I
No,
don't know what
I
to
feel like they didn't
say.
have much chemistry together, which is strange because they kind
I
of build it as like they're
know.
two friends, who are obviously both into F1. So, I expected like some banter in that regard, but there was just nothing. I think both of them aren't really made for live broadcast. So kind of like, what we talked about last podcast, like I'm so curious how he kind of sounds, as a
I know.
commentator
I
and
remember
like
you saying that. We have our answer.
we have our answer. He's not broadcast ready, but also
Mm-mm.
I felt like Will wasn't a great host, and that's just maybe because he doesn't know Formula One that extensively. And
Yeah.
I can see the thought process being like, it will be charming that he basically knows next to nothing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know, I just felt like it was just too basic,
Yeah.
for the star power
Yeah.
that both of them have essentially. So it was just really weird.
Yeah.
Danny felt like he was in driver mode, so you could kind of see like at certain points like his hands were like twitching like he was, changing the gears like on the paddle. Um, he's like actually intensely watching them racing. So like, Will's
Right.
kind of talking,
Right.
but Danny
Oh
has
my
yet
God,
to
but it was
snap out of
wild.
it. Yeah,
Do you
it's just
remember in the
yeah.
early on, he was like, "Oh, there's a lot going on." It was like at the race start, and he's like, "I can't
Yeah.
multitask." And I was just like,
Yeah.
I just like put my head
Yep.
into my hands, like, "You can't multitask. Like, this is not a good idea for you.
I
Then,
can't believe they
like,
didn't
this
like
is
test it, on
oh
a some separate race or something. I don't know. It was just like
yeah,
very much felt like neither party was ready to do this. So I hope this was
no,
them getting the kinks out for, COTA and Vegas because I can't imagine
oh,
this
I,
going on past
yeah."
that if that was the plan.
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, and I
Yeah.
saw the part, like, it was, I mean, it was like embarrassing. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I swear to God, for
Yeah.
anyone who didn't see it or hear it or whatever, I'm really not exaggerating. It was
Yeah.
so awkward. It was like, it was, I mean, I remember I tweeted something like Danny should have like had some of his wine or something beforehand. Maybe that
Yeah,
would have helped because
loosen up
he
a little bit.
seemed
Yeah.
quite nervous,
Yeah.
like, and not comfortable with this whole thing.
Yeah.
And see, that just goes to show you that you cannot just take, famous person plus F1 driver and it's going to equal
Hmm.
magic, because this
Yeah.
was the opposite of that. It was, I didn't see all of it, but I saw when Patrick Dempsey showed up. So
Yeah.
they had other guests too. There were
Yes.
guests throughout. There was like all this, I mean, I did see like a clip of him like eating poutine or whatever, or
Yeah.
cuz
Taking
I
shots of maple syrup.
I mean, it was like
Mhm.
a caricature of what
Yeah.
a broadcast could be. Or okay, like I thought that it would be kind of like podcast vibes,
Right.
like the way that if we were, let me tell you, like right now, Tasha and I, not professionals, but I'm don't you believe that if we were doing that, that it would have been like
Yeah.
500,000 times better?
Well,
I'm not
yeah,
saying we
and
would have been able to do the commentary perfectly either, to
right.
be able to be like, because we obviously can't, we wouldn't have had a driver there who can give that perspective,
Right.
but it was just, yeah.
It was just a mismatch of personalities.
Yes.
I know Dax Shepard has a podcast, F1 podcast. I know he's also
Hmm.
actually friends with Daniel. He's a comedian. I think he has like just different energy. I think the energy was just
Yeah.
like totally not matched. Will Arnett is obviously very like, you know, uh, not I wouldn't say serious, but he's just very like calm, cool, collected, sort of like there's
Yeah.
not really like an energy spike. And then you have Daniel, who I felt like just a deer in headlights. So,
Yes.
it was just sort of like it sucks that this had to happen live. It almost felt like it could have just been a post-race podcast, like I feel like a post-race would have been
I
perfect, especially
mean,
just to
I don't
test the
know if that
waters to
would
see
be,
how they
yeah,
get on.
maybe.
But it's just strange that like this was uh, like you said, they just put two celebrities together and were like, go for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it
Yeah, I
wasn't good.
really I do have to wonder, what they were really thinking, like, and
Yeah.
they had I was very happy. Did they do a lot more with him with the guy who's the virtual stat man? Sean, is that his name, I think?
Yeah, he pops in a
So
few times throughout the
yeah,
broadcast. Yeah.
they should have had more of him maybe.
Yeah.
Because
He
he
definitely
was
should have
actually
stayed on
able to
screen more.
talk
Yeah.
some sense. Yeah.
Like I wasn't expecting a whole lot in terms of like the analysis from either of them, but it really did feel sort
Yeah.
of like and again, I think I have so many thoughts. I guess I feel like it's clear that they want this to be like aimed toward like F1 beginners, and you can tell by like how Will's asking questions like, what's
Yeah.
DRS? And what does this do?
Right.
So like I get that, but it's also to me, I feel like the best way to learn about F1 is to like actually watch the races and be immersed in the races, right? So like
Yeah.
while they're taking 10 minutes to describe something that like you really could Google, all this
Mhm.
stuff on the race is happening that you're not getting any perspective on. I actually found it
Yes.
very
Yes.
distracting. So I'm glad that
Oh,
I
it was
watched the regular
awful.
race first because I was like, I
Right.
couldn't follow what was happening on screen, you know? So it was, yeah,
No, I tried to watch, like I said, I tried to watch it, and that was my
yeah,
first time seeing the start. And then I was like, okay, I can't continue with this because I'm
yeah,
actually going to, even though I plan to watch it again later with like normal commentary, I was still
right,
like, I can't. This is just not, this is not
yeah,
tenable. Like, and it was just so like, and Patrick, like, 'cause I saw part of the part with Patrick Dempsey. Like, to me,
mm,
it was also very emblematic of kind of like the culture of F1 where it's these,
yep,
rich white men sitting around talking about, it just felt very much like
yes,
Patrick Dempsey shows up with his, I've done Le Mans, I've done the Baja
right,
1000, I've done Sonoma, I've done all this because he's done all this like actual racing. I'm like,
yes,
congratulations, you're an exact example of what, I mean, and of course, motor racing kind of started that way, let's be real, but like, now it's
right,
presumably supposed to be more serious in a sport and all this kind of
right,
and and it just felt so, it was like, maybe the
yeah,
grandstand's a good name for it, because sitting in a grandstand somewhere hearing two guys just bullshitting, and sometimes three, maybe is would be the similar experience,
yeah.
to like if you were at a race
No, you're so
once
right.
in
I
a
mean,
while.
you're so right though, because that's exactly how I felt watching it. I was just like, wow, so you could be an absolute beginner to F1, and as long as you're somewhat famous, somebody will just give you a show, and we have to listen to you speak for 2 hours
Yeah.
about what
Mhm.
sport that you obviously have real, like, no real knowledge in. So, I mean, it's like
Mhm.
I don't wanna be hard on him
Mhm.
because I get it, and everybody's a beginner, but it's also just like
Yeah.
no woman or person of color is gonna be able to do that. Like, I'm sorry, like, how many
Yeah.
people are they just gonna give a show, and then promote it like, "Hey, watch it." Like, they're just not gonna do that. So it was just very
Yeah,
like,
it's like
ugh.
you're famous and you like F1, uh,
Yeah.
and you're friends with Danny Ricardo. Boom,
Here's your
done.
show. Yeah.
They just did not give it much
Yeah.
thought. Like it was,
Mm-mm.
yeah. I mean, I've had, even when I, the podcast I used to do, and then
Mhm.
like you and I, like before we started kind of doing this, like, remember we like talked and we were like, let's,
Yeah.
and for me, that's also
Let's figure out a
partly
plan. Yeah.
like you want to talk to someone, yeah, to see if there's
Mhm.
like, a vibe there, if it's going to be a good conversation, if it's, this is
Yeah.
for, I'm not doing this on ESPN, and I,
Right.
it was just, I did see some of the they posted a clip on Instagram, and I had to, I couldn't, I like commented, I'm like, this was so bad that I like lack the words, and I'm a writer or was, whatever, but like I'm like, please don't do this again. And then there was like a
Yeah.
guy there was somebody that responded like with a snarky response. Maybe they enjoyed it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or they're just a huge, and this is nothing against Will or Danny.
Yeah.
It was just not a good combo. They were just not prepared. It was
Mm-mm.
awkward, it was stilted,
Yeah.
it was not entertaining. You would have expected this to be entertaining. Danny was
It
in
was the
like
biggest
press
letdown. Oh my
conference
gosh. Yeah.
PR mode. He was giving answers to Will as if he was being asked them by Lawrence Barretto, or whatever. I felt
Right.
like it was just very kind of, no
Stiff,
personality in
dry.
it
Yeah.
really. Yeah. Yeah, and
Mhm.
I think he felt very much like he felt like the spotlight, like you said, deer in the headlights, I think is accurate.
Yeah.
I think he felt
Yeah.
very much that the spotlight was on him, and he's got to like perform when really he should have just been himself.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like be no one expected actual commentary from them, but I
Correct.
think they
Yeah.
thought that they should try to do that, but then also
Yeah.
it just didn't know what it wanted to be. It was trying to do, it
Yeah,
was just a mess.
it lacks that direction, and that's why I said it's like it's just very interesting that it's you can't tell who it's for. It's like if it's
Right.
for beginners, I think that they should format it a little bit differently, because I
Mhm.
think that's okay. I think educating people and leaning into like the new fans is not a bad thing, but I think it's a bad thing when you play on that trope of like, we don't know anything, and like,
Yeah.
what's this? What's that? Like, it's just so played out and tired, I think. I think you should have a little bit more respect for your audience, especially people who are investing time in the sport. Like, it can be humorous and have levity and all of those things, but it doesn't have to play on the like dumb American sort of trope of, what's the
Yes.
DRS, what's the
Oh
braking zone? Like, come
God.
on, guys. Like, there's just ways to be
Ooh.
educational without it being, lowbrow, I guess, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, do not recommend in
Yeah.
case it was not clear.
I think last thing that made it maybe help them a little bit is if they were at least in the same place. I know that like Will said at some point he's in Brooklyn and Danny's
True.
actually at I feel like if they were in the same room, it might have been a little bit easier
Might
to
have been
play off of
better.
each
Yeah,
other.
might have. Yes,
Um,
yes.
but maybe marginally, who knows? It just yeah. It
Right, right.
it needs something. It needs reworking. So yeah.
I think you're right that it would have only been maybe a slight help.
A little bit,
But
yeah.
yeah, just a little. But that, yeah, I would have taken
Imagine when they have to
anything.
do
I
this in
mean,
tuxedos for Vegas.
oh, yeah. I'm gonna have a hard time trying to get through more than like next time. Maybe I'll try to watch more of it. Although that would just
Yeah.
be an act of masochism, I feel like. I mean, it was really
It
that
was
bad. Like I was
hard.
just
Yeah.
so it was hard to watch.
Hmm.
I was embarrassed for everyone involved, and I felt bad for
Secondhand
Sean,
embarrassment.
honestly.
Yes. Oh my God, that's what it
Yes.
was. Thousand
Yes,
percent.
exactly. Exactly. That's what it's I mean, I have a
Like
hard
I
time
can't
with that
watch
always
this.
when I see
Yeah.
people going I'm like, "Oh, no, like,
Yeah.
so I just yeah, they need to rethink that whole thing.
And F1's
And I
cruel
guess
because they
it'll
don't even have commercial breaks, so they couldn't even like cut to a break, and like take a little bit of a breather. The like coach member, just
I know.
2 hours, just straight live TV with no prep. Like, wow.
Oh, it was I mean, I I actually have been meaning to I've messaged a little sometimes with that guy, the virtual statman guy. He's a very nice guy actually.
Oh,
And he's very nice. Uh and so I've been meaning to actually ask him. I'm going to ask him how he felt about it. And of course probably he's not going to be as straightforward. He was, but like I mean, again, it was just so it was lacking even the basic like so on normally on commentary when you have somebody who's a former driver, they can
mhm.
give the driver's perspective and they can
Yes.
say like, "Ooh, that was not like Danny." It seemed like was never going to be willing to do that since he's not 100% an ex driver since he's still hoping
Right.
maybe to drive again that he didn't want to like shade anyone too hard and he didn't want to be
No, yeah, he
like
was
that
very
was
complimentary to everybody,
yeah.
actually. Yeah.
So right, right. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's no. I mean, Julian Palmer tells it like it is.
Yeah.
In yeah. So I mean, obviously he's not trying to get a drive in Formula One, so there's that difference. But it's, I mean, it was just no.
Yeah.
So bad. ESPN. I'm sure you're not listening, but yeah, if anyone watched it, who had differing opinions or same or opinions or whatever, let us know what you thought in general. You can tweet us or message us or whatever. Anything. Let us know what you thought if you checked it out. Will you be checking out the other two based on I
Um,
will have to do it for science for
right,
the
for
show,
research purposes.
but that's
Yeah, I
I
mean,
if that weren't the case, I would not be there.
yeah. I mean, it's so strange, right? It's like, yeah, this totally sucked, but yes, I'll definitely watch it next time that it
Yeah.
airs.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see if it gets better. I think he just, like I said, the
Yeah.
no
Let's see if it
breaks, no
improves.
commercial breaks probably killed him the most because it's like you don't get that minute to like breathe and like somebody could be like, okay, just
Yeah.
relax, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to see how it progresses.
Oh, Yeah. Yeah, it needs some I don't know if they were wearing like the earpieces thing that I couldn't tell anything
Hmm.
like that. It was difficult to tell, but if that's not happening, that needs to be happening. And then
Yeah.
again, Danny's not good at multitasking, so he's not going to be able to handle that probably. So I don't know what needs to happen here. I just think that the whole thing should be scrapped personally. Okay. Okay. Very quickly, I think that this is something hilarious that happened before the weekend, really. Uh, George Russell has said some things,
Yeah. Yes,
as
he
he is
has.
wont to do.
Yes.
he, I, I don't know what's going on exactly with George because he's got that reputation of being PR 63,
Yes.
but sometimes it goes completely the other way,
The
I feel
mask
like.
flips. Yes, sometimes. Yep.
Yeah, like, and I feel like it happens more and more. Like with each successive year at Mercedes, I feel like it's gonna potentially get worse and worse because the more confident he is in his position, the more kind of, assured he is that
Yeah.
he's an important part of the team and that, yeah, that no one's looking to get rid of him or anything like that.
Right.
The more things he may have to say. And because ahead of I think it was maybe after the Spanish Grand Prix, again, because Formula One reporters don't ever see fit to tell us in what context anything ever was said or happened. I don't know when he
Right.
made these comments, but he made some comments about. Well, first of all, he did say the thing that, like, I think that I did appreciate that he said that, Max Verstappen's driving less aggressively because he doesn't need to.
Right.
There's no reason for him to be aggressive. Like, why? When you have a
Right.
rocket ship, you
Exactly.
can just, which does again beg the question of why that happened in the sprint race in Baku. But you know, whatever. It's when he sees the Mercedes star, something happens.
He
You
goes,
know what I
yes, he's red.
think?
Gets livid. Yeah. He gets livid.
It's a different reaction than anyone else. Um, but yeah, it's maybe that you could say that was earlier in the season. I don't know if he thought that there was, but yeah. So I did appreciate him saying that because I do think that sometimes we hear these comments about how Max is like matured and how there's
Yeah.
this, and I'm like, we have no evidence of that because when you're 7 to
30
20
seconds.
seconds ahead, yeah, there's no reason to be getting into any dicey situations with anyone and no
Absolutely.
opportunity to because you're way up the road.
Yeah, I agree. Like,
So,
that's definitely been, I think, a topic, at least on F1 Twitter, which is like, this rebuttal to the commentators and everybody just saying that Max is this different driver this year and he's so mature. And it's like,
yeah,
yeah, he doesn't have to be aggressive because, again, like you said, like he's down the road. Like, there's
yeah,
nobody to fight with, there's nobody to compete with. But when he is around cars, he reverts back to the same behavior of, yield or we crash type of thing. So,
yeah.
yeah, I don't think he's a change driver at all. I think, hopefully we'll be lucky at some point for maybe Aston or Mercedes to get close enough so we can start to see them battle with Max a little bit,
Yeah,
hopefully. But
that would be good.
yeah, I don't think George told a lie, and I definitely agree. Like, you
No,
can't
that
give
part
some.
was fine.
Yeah, it's so
That
true.
part was fine. And then he went on to talk about how, it's like certain drivers better because you raced with them,
Mm,
yada yada. And, and then I think the part that got the most attention, of course, was him saying that he felt that there are three drivers on the grid. He said who their situational awareness is not what it should be, basically. And of course, everyone's been trying to figure out who those three drivers
yeah.
are. But I have to point out that it was actually one of the greatest tweets I saw during the race where somebody was like, George situational awareness Russell bins it unaided by any
All alone,
and
hits the wall.
it was kind of poetic
Yeah.
that happened
Yeah.
but I just I I don't love that from like I think it hits different when it's sometimes you will hear sort of similar comments from like Fernando
Hmm.
or really only Fernando that I can think of. And so I kind of can understand the man could be some of these drivers could be his kids, you know, and
Right,
he's you know he's kind of like get off my lawn, and I understand that it probably is frustrating for someone sometimes with so much
yeah,
talent and experience and ability to be racing with these young guys who
right,
are not on the same level, are are not even close maybe, and are doing silly things. So I kind of can understand it more from someone like that.
right.
George, that's not you.
Oh, oh my God. I just
You
really, yeah, I need him to stop talking. That's, I think what it comes down to for me is I just need him to stop talking
yes.
about other people.
Say less.
Just keep it cute because even I think we're joking online this weekend as well because he was doing a lie detector test
Oh
and
yes, we have to talk about that too.
he's asked like, do you think you're faster than Lewis? And he answers now, yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then not
Mhm.
even an hour later in a race, it's like lap 13 or something
Yeah.
in the race, he takes
Mhm.
himself out. But at the start, he's getting dusted by Alonso and Lewis, and it's just sort of like there's nothing wrong. We say this all the time. There's nothing wrong with bigging yourself up. You should be confident. You should think you're fast. But you got to stop taking this bait because clearly, and
Seriously.
this is what I think is the funniest thing about him is being like the PR, PR 63 is obviously he has internalized this to some degree. He thinks everybody loves how he speaks, so he just continues to speak more, I think. And I would say even on the level of, where he thinks that he's equal or better than Lewis Hamilton,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
But like with Lewis and like with these veteran journalists who bait him into saying these things, it's like just because you think you're smarter than them doesn't mean that you actually are. You're being baited into all of these battles that you don't need to be taking on, you know?
Right.
You you're not going to outsmart these people who are in the media for like decades. You know what I'm saying? Like you think you've got it all under control and you could just say whatever you want, but no, they're just using you for clicks and like you're just
I have
feeding
to
into it.
assume that he,
Yeah.
even if he had the possible thought to say no, that he would have been like,
Yeah.
well, it's gonna show that I'm lying.
Right. I would just be
He
like,
was
I believe I'm fast. You know what I mean? Like I don't like I feel like there's a way he could
Yeah.
have spun
You
it
could
that there wasn't
that's right. Or that's
comparison,
still
you know what I mean?
true, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there also that whole I mean, that lie detector test was just I literally cannot wait to see all the other I assume they're going to do it with the other
I hope
drivers,
they do.
in due
Yeah.
course. I hope they do almost all of them or all I mean, I'm sure they still have to like agree to it, so maybe they could say no or something, but
Right, right.
I thought that was amazing because if people didn't see it, some of the other takeaways from that were that he said he's not as cool as Lando Norris. He's annoyed that Lando has more Instagram followers, even though he acknowledged that he's not as cool. So you would think that
Right.
would. Yes, he sometimes looks at his fan pages. He said he there were other things I can't remember, but the one that stood out to me was where George said that he thinks he's one of the top 5 best looking drivers on the grid.
All right, George. You know what? I wouldn't say he's wrong.
Maybe not, because I did
Like
start
I
thinking
wouldn't say
about
he's
it,
wrong.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
and there's not
I
many
mean,
people to choose from.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, personally, for me, not top 5, but it is subjective, and
subjective. Yes, yes, yes.
I get it. Like he did, and then he started naming. He's like, they were like, well, who are the other? He's like, and he named, Charles, Carlos, Lewis. That still
Yeah,
leaves one empty spot.
right.
I don't know who he would put in that. But it's just like again, this is like the conversation we had before. Like
Yeah,
it's good to be confident, but there comes a point where it's just not like Charles gets that kind of stuff Like people
Right,
are
right.
always asking him stuff or saying that, how are you so beautiful? Like there's, and he's has a much more humble and
Humble.
charming response
Hmm.
always to those types of questions. He's always
Right.
like, "Oh, well, you can thank my parents," or, whatever. He typically says something like George is like, no one asked. Well, they asked in the lie detector,
Yeah.
obviously, but he's like, I'm one of the 5 best looking ones.
He's
I'm
like,
like,
you're right. I am the best looking guy yet.
I, again, George, say less. Like,
He just won't humble himself. I mean, at some point, I feel like I respect it.
uh,
I don't know, but it's like, yeah,
I
it
respect it
just
to a certain point,
to a
and then
degree,
it just
yeah.
goes like
But it's
over
just
the
like me, me,
line for
me, me, me,
me.
me, 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 me. It's like, George,
Yes.
like relax. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna be here for a long time. Like spread it out. You know,
It's
spread
just
out.
It's a
Like,
lot.
yeah,
That's right. I
yeah.
hadn't stopped to think about that. In fact, if this is what he's like now,
Could
he's
you
going to be
imagine?
insufferable in like 10 years. Can you imagine?
I
Or
give it
even
two
less than
years
that?
before we're like, I can't hear this man speak
Right.
anymore. Yeah.
Right. It's God forbid that at that point that there's a competitive car and he's fighting for a
Oh
championship.
yeah.
That's going to
We'll
be
never hear the end of it. Oh
I
my
I
God.
I don't know. Oh. This was the other thing. That's right. That I suddenly remembered from the lie detector. They asked him, "Do you think you were at Williams for a year too long?" He said, "No, 2 years too long." That's right.
I think I missed that question.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So he
So
just thinks
now
he was immediately should have just jumped into the
if people
Mercedes? Is
don't
that what he's
recall,
saying?
he was 3 years at Williams, so he felt he should have just done the 1 year there, and then they should have bounced Bottas and put him in. Now, maybe
Wow.
some people might say that that's, I know there are people who believe that in 2021, if Lewis had a better teammate, then things could have been somewhat different.
Hmm.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda. We don't really know, but again, the chutzpah. And if you don't remember that word, it's like the nerve.
The word of the
the
day, yeah.
the chutzpah to be like, no, I do 1 year and I should have. I mean, George. Like Valtteri, okay, Valtteri was not as yes, George is better than Valtteri, 1,000%. But
Right.
Valtteri wasn't like he wasn't doing like a Checo ever that I recall,
Right.
who now hasn't been in Q3 for I think the last 3 races
Oof,
or something like
something
that.
like that, yeah.
It wasn't that bad,
Yeah.
and and he was a good number 2 for Lewis. He
Yeah, and
he did the
George is
job.
not a number two. He's clearly making that very like
Uh,
crystal clear that he's not the number
yeah.
two guy. So if he thinks that he was going to come in and be a better driver or better number two wingman or whatever, so that would have probably just been even
Right.
worse in 2020 2021 because I can only
Oh my
imagine
God,
George
yeah.
wanting to like
That's
snatch wins off of
right.
Lewis and try to like, be in the driver
Oh,
championship himself. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
if this is where we're at now, like definitely, and this is with him with 3 years of experience, I couldn't imagine him, after one
Yeah,
year ready
I'm
ready to go.
scared.
Yeah.
I'm honestly
Yeah.
scared about what's going to happen in a couple years. Like you said, it might only be a couple years. I mean,
It might only
geez,
be 6 months, let's be
you
real.
know.
Like, yeah. The end of the season, it might just
Exactly.
be enough.
Right.
Stop talking.
No, seriously. Man won one race and he thinks he's like,
Eh,
the star of Formula 1 already.
Absolutely.
He's there. He's reached the top of the mountain.
He's
You've
nothing
won
left to
one
prove.
race.
Yeah.
Calm down. Calm down. Seriously. Like I can't anymore with him. I mean, ooh. Uh, so yeah. But okay. Our very loyal listener Hector Rodriguez actually wanted us to talk about. He said that and I think a lot of people have been asking this question or similar questions. He said, which top team should Alex Albon drive for next season? He clearly should be in a better car, but I'm not sure I see a situation at one of the top teams where he could slot right in. And yeah, of course, after Alex's incredible performance, I think a lot of people are kind of like, oh, it's not the first time,
Hmm.
obviously. I think Alex is the new tire whisperer. It used to be Checo, but I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the case anymore. And I think it's Alex because do you remember it was last
Yeah.
season, I think too, where he went in the Australian Grand Prix. he went like 50
Like all
some
but one
laps
lap or
on.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And we
And
were like,
now
is he gonna pit? Yeah.
I know, it was like you have to, so he had to, but
Yeah.
and then he still stayed in 10th. It was or where I don't know if he was higher up in the, yeah, so they managed to keep him in the, but this was, I mean, incredible. An incredible
Yeah.
performance from Alex. He was so happy, it was so cute.
Oh
There
my
were all
God. I'm
these
so happy for him that he got
it
more points. Like I
yeah.
just feel like because he's only had the one for the basically this whole time. And I just feel like he's been putting in better performances than what the, rankings show at the moment. So I'm so glad that he now has 7 points to his name and
Yeah,
like,
it's
yeah, he did
amazing.
great.
It's
Hmm.
amazing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Alex, I didn't even know if Alex himself would, well, I mean, I guess, of course, maybe you'd want to go
Yeah.
to a team where you have a chance to fight for something more. But I don't know. I still have, I guess, some doubts about whether it would have to be the right fit. I feel like it would have
Yeah.
to be a team, that's not like Red Bull.
Yeah. He definitely can't go back to Red Bull. It wouldn't
No,
even make
no. Well,
sense,
that's
honestly. It wouldn't even make sense for many
obviously, yeah,
reasons.
and
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. Yeah. But I just feel like I don't know. I feel like he's doing so well at Williams. He's so
Hmm.
valued there. He seems happy there.
Yeah.
You know, he's really, I think he's helping move the team forward.
Yes.
So they wouldn't want to let him go, I'm sure. And yeah, I just, I kind of, I mean, I would like to see him in a better car, I guess.
Same, I
Sure,
would as
because
well. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think his talent does deserve probably better machinery, but that could still happen down the line.
Hmm.
There are possibly, he's still young. He's still young, so
Yes.
there could still be opportunities down the line. I don't think anything would happen like next season or anything like that. Probably not. Although, I mean, who knows?
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe
we
I
got
would say
Nick
probably more
DeFries
down the
and
line.
yeah, we got Nick DeFries after one miraculous race. So I could see how some teams may want to snatch Alex up after a performance like yesterday. Um, but it would just be a matter of like where. I don't see
Yeah,
to me, when I look at the situation with Alex at Williams, I see him in a great position there. Because
exactly.
he does kind of have
Yeah.
that one-to-one relationship now with like James Vowles, who just came from Mercedes. So you have all of that knowledge. You
Hmm.
see him, being so helpful developing the car and strategizing and, just like you said it just feels like they're really building a great relationship there and he's so valued there. I think it would take that same sort of relationship potential for him to leave the team.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, even if you went to another midfield team, what would be the point? You'd be in basically the same position.
Right.
So why not stay
Right.
where you're valued? Um,
Yeah.
unless it's a bigger team, like I I know people kicked around Ferrari. To me, I'm just like that just would be
I think
so.
that's a no. I feel like that would be,
I think he would be wasted there, to be quite honest. The same way Charles is kind of like
yeah, and plus I don't think that
wasted.
I just don't think there's any, like, he doesn't have any kind of relationship with them of any sort. Like he's never
Mm,
driven a Ferrari powered car. He was not in their driver academy. He's not, I mean,
hmm.
there's just kind of no really ties
Yeah.
there. I mean, which is not to say that you can't have a driver go, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, but obviously Carlos is there and he wasn't in their academy, etc. But
Hmm.
that's different. He joined after he'd
Right.
already been in Formula One for years. So, and plus, yeah, I wouldn't want him to. I don't. I only want what's best for Alex, and
Same.
that would not be going there.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So who knows? Maybe down the line, I don't know. No one knows what's going to happen with this Audi team when the current Alfa Romeo team will become,
Right.
for a while, just go back to Sauber. I don't know because Alfa Romeo is leaving as a sponsor next year, and then they'll be Audi in 2026 is when it'll
Hmm.
be like full on Audi. So no one knows what's going to happen with that. No one knows what's going to, some people think that they
Yeah.
could make a play for Lando. Then that would leave a seat at McLaren if that were to happen.
Mm.
Eventually one would expect Fernando to retire, right?
Right.
Someday.
Who
So
knows?
maybe,
Yeah.
when that someday
Yeah.
Lewis will retire, we don't know when that'll be. It could
Yeah.
still be quite a while, but whatever time it'll be. Alex is obviously younger. He
Yes,
could still be
yeah.
racing
Hmm.
potentially. So yeah, so who knows? I mean, but yeah, I'm glad he's in a good spot though now. I mean,
Yeah,
he's valued, he's respected. That's always a good feeling.
yeah,
You don't want to be somewhere where you're struggling to be heard or to be to be really embraced by the team, because
yeah.
driver, it's a team sport and you really need that
Hmm.
support. So
And it's
we'll see.
fickle, and fleeting. So
Yeah.
it's like if you can be somewhere where they actually seem like they want to keep you around long term, while your other peers might be, worrying if they're going to have a contract in the next year or not. So I think
Mhm.
it's just like the stability is perfect. And, again, I think most drivers want to be in a better car, have the best equipment or whatever. But I think if you can sort of see sort of the forest for the trees, in a situation like being at Williams. Like I think he comes out of it a much better driver than his peers who are currently in better cars, but who don't have that same relationship that they don't have that same like leadership sort of pipeline
Mhm.
that he's
Mhm.
in. So he's, in my opinion, like probably in the best position you could be in for somebody,
Yeah.
with his talent level who's not yet there's not yet a seat at like a bigger team. Just stay where you are, develop,
Yeah.
keep putting in
Yeah.
good performances when nobody's
Mhm.
expecting it, and I think he'll get snatched up when the time's right. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we see that it does make a difference, even when you're at a team that's
absolutely.
like a back marker or lower down the grid. If you can put in those kinds of
Mm.
performances on a consistent basis and really make a name for
Mhm.
yourself, it could pay off down the
Mhm.
line for sure. And I think
Mhm.
yeah, now they're in this like rebuilding phase, and I think Alex, uh, wants to probably be a part of that. I would say
Yeah.
he, of course, if it was like some top team offering him a huge sum of money, I imagine,
Right.
it would be a
Can't
no-brainer,
say
I
no to that.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but barring that, I feel like he would weigh the fact that he's really part of something here. I mean, even,
Mhm.
someone like and Alex has only been back for this is his second year with
Second
Williams, I
season
think,
back.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
so obviously we know what happened before that. uh uh but uh but when you look at someone like Lando, like he too, I mean, at least outwardly he says those things. He says like, well, I'm C- McLaren, we're going to build back to a better place and I'll be a part
Right.
of that and it'll be so satisfying. I don't know if he necessarily means that, but or but I mean I think he might though, because Lando I do feel like is very he's pretty honest usually. So I feel like
Mhm.
I feel like you'd kind of be able to tell maybe if I mean, he's not a George,
Yeah.
where he kind of he's more he's maybe not as honest as like a Yuki, but
Yeah.
he's
He's
yeah,
not
he's
afraid to be
pretty
a little
forthright.
self-deprecating, so
Well,
yeah.
he's like very
He keeps it
self-deprecating, I feel
more,
like.
yeah, he keeps it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Like George, like you admitted you thought Lando was cooler than you. So maybe this is a page you could take from his book. Now, you don't have to go
Yeah.
that far over to the self-deprecation necessarily.
Right.
That does not obviously
But maybe
suit
some
you.
self-awareness.
Maybe just a little. Yeah,
Maybe a
just a
little.
tad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oy.
Bless
George.
him.
Anyway, yeah, Lando had I think it must be said, a really fantastic race. And that
Yeah.
penalty was very weird. Very
Yeah.
weird for unsportsmanlike behavior. I've heard all these
Yeah.
explanations of it now, and it sounds like more of the same, like where because we don't have consistent stewarding, we don't have, it's not the same stewards at every race, or it's not people that are all on the same,
Right.
you have rules and they can be interpreted differently, and that they could have given him a penalty and called it something else. They chose
Right.
to do it under the rubric of this rule about
Right.
but it was definitely, it was weird for everyone. Like I feel like everyone was like unsportsmanlike, like
Even
that.
Daniel Ricciardo actually in the grandstand um commentary, he was like,
Oh yeah,
I
what did he
hadn't heard
say?
that one. Yeah, he was like,
Yeah,
he's
well,
like,
yeah,
he was
everyone
like, I
was
haven't
like,
heard
"What
that
the
one. Yeah.
heck is that?" Like that's yeah, it's like some. I mean, it's in there
Yeah.
apparently. It's a rule in the sporting
But
code or
see,
whatever.
this is what
But
Gunther was saying. Gunther was right. And
he
so it's
was
like every week they
right.
prove his point.
Oh, he was so right. Well, I mean, that's just, it goes without saying. But yeah, but every week there's an example of like something
Yeah,
that's like, what?
yeah,
I mean, yes, I think Lando kind of definitely was a little bit too much pretending like he didn't know why anyone would have a problem with him slowing down because there were cars
right.
behind him. And that is a bit, not great. But
Right.
yeah, it's an odd, and I mean, also just like, okay, so I'm someone to whom words matter, and those things do kind of always make me feel a certain way when there's a word used, like in this case unsportsmanlike. When you think about like
Yeah,
unsportsmanlike, I think about like something really, I think about maybe someone, brake testing someone. I think
yeah,
about things like someone, maybe walking off a podium. I think about
yeah,
things that really really get to the core of what's
yeah. I think I agree with you there.
unsportsmanlike.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but those things were not called that.
Mm-mm.
So I just, I mean, and I think that's one of the reasons why it was so jarring for everybody, because Lando was very sportsmanlike, really overall.
Yeah,
Like he's one of the he's not he doesn't do like crazy things pretty much. Like
yeah,
he does amazing things though in this race. Like I was actually kind of
yeah. He
like,
did great with
I'm not
some of his
necessarily like
overtakes. Were pretty
Lando.
cool.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. Like I didn't put in my notes, like I'm like that was hot. Like I felt
Yeah.
like I'm Paris Hilton now. So I'm like, like that was
Listen, it seems
hot.
like he's got his
Like,
confidence back in the car a little bit. The upgrades seem to have
yeah.
done their job. So yeah, he seems really confident in the car. Some of those overtakes were pretty cool. The one with Oscar, the fight with Oscar was pretty
I
good.
mean,
Yeah.
it was like his he does do amazing overtakes. He won when it
Hmm.
was in I whenever they won Monza, you know, and so that would have
Oh
been
wow, yeah, a while ago.
last year or the year
Was it two
before.
years
God, I
ago?
don't even. Oh yeah,
Oh
that's
no,
right. It
yeah, it
was the
was
year
last.
before last.
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
year before last, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. When they won Monza, he did an amazing overtake in that race too. That I actually will never, and it actually won. They did. I don't know if they do this every year, but people vote for like overtake of the year, and he won it for
Mm.
that overtake. He was, I think it was, he overtook Charles. He was like on the grass. It was amazing. Um,
Cool.
and
I need to go
and
back and
he
watch
yeah,
this
so
one.
he
I don't
does.
think I remember it.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's a really good one. I remember still the commentary. It's like when you remember things like that, you remember the commentary. I think it was Martin Brundle was like, Norris is absolutely fearless. He's on the grass, and like, because normally that's really dangerous to do.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, you could very easily, grass is not a racing surface, and
Mm-mm. No
could
grip.
end very badly. Yeah, no, yeah. So yeah, it was a really good one. And yeah, in this race he had like several that were, so I was like,
Yeah.
Lando's got his mojo back.
Yeah.
I hate to say, maybe, I don't know if it's because he's got the facial hairs back. Which, I'm not a
You can't win them
fan.
all, Anna. Yeah.
But I mean, maybe there's something. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm fighting a losing
Just gotta
battle
let him
here,
experiment.
perhaps.
Everybody's goes through their phases. Maybe he's just ready for the full facial hair.
They
Just
did
leaving
have
the
there was
baby
a
face
funny
behind. Yeah.
I guess it's sort of like, I mind it less. I feel like now it's
Yeah.
because I'm a little bit
It's
more
growing
used
on
to
you.
it. So it's not as
No pun intended.
that was so good. Oh, I thought you meant that on purpose. That's
Yeah.
that was a good one. See, Will Arnett and Danny, I'm just saying, put
Come on,
us
guys.
in. Put us
Put us in the
in.
game, coach. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're like this would be better. I'm just saying. I mean, and probably anything would have been better than
Honestly,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, like yeah, he's, maybe it's the facial hair. I don't know. Maybe there's
Hmm.
something to it. In which case, I guess he should keep it because he drove so well.
Yeah.
So good job to Lando. And I did want to briefly comment on, if people didn't see, Sky did this segment with, I was actually really excited when they teased it. You know how they'll show you like coming up,
Hmm.
whatever. They teased that there was going to be, they said Guanyu Zhou is going to, or I mean, Zhou Guanyu is how he prefers it. They're like, Zhou Guanyu is going to style Ted Kravitz, and he's, because he's into fashion, as everyone knows. And or they showed like a clip of them like working out. He's like, I'm gonna work
Mhm.
out like an F1 driver. I'm like, okay, cool, cool. This looks cute. This will be funny. This will be good. And then it was just the workout part was actually really quick. I don't know why they necessarily did both. It was too little of each of those things, I feel like, then, because the working out, that could have been its own thing.
Yeah.
And obviously Ted is not in the shape of a Formula One driver. So that's always going to be funny and entertaining. And they've got him doing like the neck exercise and and he got pretty sweaty. um and then they go shopping, and it's like, he and I actually thought, I silly me, I thought that maybe this was gonna be, this was gonna be like for real, that he was gonna, because Zhou
Right.
Guanyu has a great sense of style, knows a lot about
Mhm.
fashion, very knowledgeable, very, very cool, very trendy, very stylish. Uh, if people don't know, he's
Yeah.
not maybe on Lewis's level, but I think he's
Yeah, he's pretty
he's
stylish.
getting there. Yeah, he some of
Yeah.
the I loved the thing he wore to the Australian Grand Prix, that it was like this, it was like kind of looked like painted. Do you remember? It was like I'll put a link in the show notes for you guys,
Mm.
and I guess for Tasha too, because that
Yes.
was amazing. That was like the best one. Yeah, because sometimes it's just like really fancy streetwear, which is fine obviously too,
Right.
but like this was actually really like a moment. This
Mm.
like it was like Lewis worthy. I
Was it
feel in
like the half
Australia. Yeah.
skirt, like,
No,
on the
no, it was
or
that one
something?
was good too. That one was good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was maybe like my second favorite. But yeah, the Australian one,
Hmm.
I will
Let's check it
post for
out.
I will put it for you guys. Yeah, it was
I
really
feel like his
beautiful.
photos don't circulate as much on the timeline when he's
Yeah,
at, like,
no,
for
of
some
course.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Huh. I'll
he's
have to look
not
at it. Yeah.
as yeah. He's no, but it's great. He's got his own and he's got his own Rashi. He's got his own person that chronicles what he's wearing. So and
Ah,
a lot of
cool.
the drivers
Let's
and
find it.
some of the drivers' girlfriends have those too. If you Yeah, you can go quite deep down the rabbit hole with all of
Right.
these things. But yeah, so I was actually like looking forward to this. I'm like, oh, this will be funny, or no, not funny. I'm like, I thought it would still be funny, but I thought that maybe
Right.
he was actually going to like pick stuff out for him or make some suggestions. Instead, they do this. They go. I mean, they're
Yeah.
at the store, and Ted Kravitz comes out in this ridiculous outfit that just looks insane. And
That's
of course,
horrible.
probably
Yeah.
not something that Zhou Guanyu picked out for him. I very much doubt.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's in these like leather pants that look like they're. I mean, it just the whole thing is just ridiculous, and he's in
Yeah.
these glasses, and it was just it felt like they were making fun of the idea of
Yes.
fashion.
Yes.
It felt like a farce. Like this is
Caricature.
oh
Yeah.
the whole yeah, the whole point of this was just to make Ted look stupid. You could have still done that, and then
Yeah.
maybe had him. You could have him try on some silly,
And
sure,
try on
like
something
for
else
the
afterward
comedic
that made
effect,
sense.
sure,
Yes.
and then be like, okay, now really like tell me, some
Yeah.
suggestions, or what are some things that I could. And he didn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to buy those things, obviously, and he wouldn't have probably, I'm sure it was an expensive store, whatever, wherever they went, but it was just it just felt so like
Oh.
even for Joe being there, like he really cares about fashion, and here they're doing
Yes.
this thing just for like cheap laughs,
Just the
basically.
laughs. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it just felt very icky. And
Yeah.
a lot of people now are like, this is a whole topic and area of conversation. Fashion
Mhm.
has collided with Formula One in this really interesting and multifaceted way. There's so much to say about it. There's so many cool
Yeah.
things going on. There are all these partnerships now with Brent. Like when I loved when Ferrari did that whole like line thing that they had when they had Naomi modeling for it, and also
Mhm.
Carlos's girlfriend. Or I don't know if there's some rumor that they're not together anymore. But anyway, let's just say Carlos's
Right.
girlfriend. And then there was another woman too who I think is some sort of athlete also, and stuff like that.
Mm.
There's so many. I mean,
Mhm.
there's I can uh people are writing about this stuff. People are really paying attention to, and fashion brands
Yeah.
are really getting involved in Formula One. Like, there's stuff going on, and it's not a joke.
It's so
It's
interesting that like, the fashion in F1, it's still by the people who seemingly they're not interested in it, whatever, that it is
mhm.
still seen as so much of a joke to them. You basically just
Yeah.
have Lewis and Joe coming in, taking full advantage of this spotlight that's on them. I mean, almost every other week we have a race, which means almost every other week you have an opportunity to showcase, your personality or showcase a
Mhm.
partnership or, it is like actually a legitimate thing. So yes, to your point,
Yeah.
like I would have liked to see Ted also get styled in something because he only wears shorts and a polo and his headset and
Right,
like it would
right.
have been
And he
nice to
made
see
that
him in
comment, and it's
something.
like,
Yeah,
of course, like there's
yeah,
nothing wrong. That's a
yeah.
story for a lot of men
Hmm.
and people in general. Maybe like
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if someone styled me. I'm like, hey,
Me
listen,
either.
I'm
Like, hey, especially if you're gonna pick it
sign
all
me
out.
up.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah, I
it's just
mean,
like that. It's that same old
uh,
story of like, men for some reason, or some men for some reason, just really refuse to step outside of like, you know, their gender norm and not like,
mhm.
dress out of the box if they don't want to, but like, yes, there's nice ways to coordinate your outfits that require you just like a little bit more effort than what you typically give. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be scary and you don't have to like think of it as like, it's a weird thing. Cause I know when people look at Lewis or look at Joe, some of their outfits, it's like, oh, that's weird. Cause maybe it has sequins or maybe it is like a
Yeah.
half skirt or something. But
Yeah.
it just shows that like, F1 sometimes just really gets in its own way because,
Mhm.
again, like you said, it's becoming so global, the fashion partnerships are becoming so important to it that it looks crazy that the F1 media is essentially mocking it. You know what I mean? Instead of
Right,
embracing
right.
it.
It's
So,
and I
yeah.
mean, and F1 themselves, for people that haven't seen on the official like F1 website, there is they've done now, I think maybe two. There was a piece that they have this like junior contributor who
Mhm.
uh who they assign these things to, which is, whatever. It's fine. Um I mean, that's kind of like not maybe the best either, because then it's like kind of seen as like this is less serious and not as important,
Right.
but that's okay. I mean, ultimately, you could say that maybe the most important things are obviously for them, like to actually things about the race or the engineering or whatever.
Mhm.
That's fine. But yeah, they had a guy do he did a like a brief interview with Lewis's stylist Eric McNeil. He
Mhm.
asked him about different looks and he's done for Lewis, and he asked him other, and that was a piece that he did. And then he did one, I think it was about Joe. I can't remember for sure, but I can put a link for you guys. Those are two I've seen so far. There may be more that I haven't. I'll have to look it up. But and yeah, it's just very disappointing when those happen and you see them posted online, and then like you see the reactions too,
Right.
are always just quite disappointing oftentimes.
Mhm.
Like, who cares, this is stupid, like this, you know
Exactly. Yeah.
uh listen, it again, it's like this is not just about like people wearing cool things, and it's
Mhm.
there's a whole business in this. There's a whole
Absolutely.
I mean, there's like big dollar amounts
There's
involved.
some big money
And
involved, yeah.
yeah, and I mean, and even if it was about just people wearing interesting things, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's just sad that we're still this is like still where we are. It's
Yeah.
2023. Like, I mean, we should be moving into a different framework for a lot of these things. So
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
disappointed in that segment, because it was just like, really, like you could have had,
Yeah.
so again, Sky, I'm sure you're not listening, but I am petitioning for there to be a real styling of Ted Kravitz. If you can
Yeah. Like, seriously, just do it for real. That would be so much fun to see that, like,
I mean,
how
I was
his
really
style could
excited.
evolve.
Actually, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, because yeah, of course, Ted. I mean, that's why it's so he's so known for just wearing those cargo
His
shorts and
uniform,
the
basically.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it would have been really cool. It would have been at least
Yeah.
have had Joe actually be able to use his knowledge
Yeah.
and ability to be like, hey, these are some good ideas.
Hmm.
So yeah. Anyway, um, but I feel like we've reached maybe our most important topic. Um, for
What would that be?
well, Tasha, I think you should introduce it. I think
Oh my gosh.
because
Oh, is
yeah.
this okay? This is about
Mm-hmm.
okay, the agenda that I need you guys to let it go, like right now. Seriously, let it go. This whole Max Alonso Lewis bromance that you guys trying to brew up, it's
Mm,
not real. Okay?
mm-mm,
Let it
mm-mm,
go. Stand up. Everybody stand up. I hate it so much because it's just sort of like, look, I get that they can respect each other.
mm-hmm,
They're competitors, athletes do that, and especially men. Men will go through shit and then they'll just be like, they'll hug it out and then they're cool. Me,
mm-hmm.
I'm holding a grudge forever. Okay, so there's
Same.
no, there's no, there's no 14, 33, 44, like,
Mm-mm,
no,
mm-mm.
none of that. So
No,
yeah,
no.
I need you guys to let it go. Like
Yeah,
ESPN
it's
posted like the friendship that we
oh,
didn't know we needed and googly eyes, and it's like Lewis and Alonso hugging each other.
it's a
It's
lot.
like, do I need to
It's
remind you who these men are that you guys are like shipping with Lewis? Like, do we need to
seriously.
talk about the stuff
I
he's
mean,
been through
friendship
because
is
of
a
these
word that
people?
means something.
It's a
Like friendship
stretch. Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
it's not a friendship, let's be real.
No.
If there's
They're
respect there, there's
colleagues
some
at the minimum.
y-
Yeah.
exactly. Like there's I think it's all funny and cute if you want to post like
Yes.
that, Lewis was like ribbing Alonso as they were next to each other in the media pen, and
Yes.
they asked him about that his start, wasn't obviously Lewis got the better start and he did lead,
Yeah.
or well lead. We'll pretend in my mind he's leading. Number one like doesn't
Yes.
count, because it's like who cares?
Like, oh, Max was there? Oh,
um
okay. Yeah.
yeah, I mean he's somewhere there. He's like
Right.
having a sandwich by the side of the road. Or I guess tomato soup, which is his like favorite food or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like something boring like that. I'm sorry, but but I don't know, it's a little bit kind of funny too, like yeah,
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah, Yuki would not approve. Um
Yeah. He's like, I
I
need
feel
all
like
kinds of
that
stuff. Yeah.
no. But yeah, like Lewis was so they were like you got a good and Lewis was like, yeah, well, Fernando's reaction times not as good cuz he's getting old, har har, and then
Banter. Yeah.
Fernando was like, wait till Austria. I mean, and it was like from Lewis it was just I could tell from Lewis it was just gentle ribbing, like he's just joking around with
Yeah.
him. But
Banter.
Fernando's wait till Austria felt kind of real. That felt more like
Alonso is so determined to
I
get back at all
mean,
those years that he wasn't able to
let's just take a
compete. So
moment
yeah,
to
he's excited.
remember that moment from the race where Alonso was like, I want to win this race. Do you remember when he got on the
Yeah.
radio and he was like, I
He's
want to
like, I
win
can win
this
this, you
race?
guys.
I was like, bitch, you better worry about Lewis behind you right now, maybe
Yeah.
first, before you
Yep.
worry about winning the race. Like, you are
Exactly.
nowhere near Max
Or if
anyway.
he's like us and he just forgot that Max was up there and he just,
Maybe
he's like,
that
I'm
that
P1.
perhaps
Yeah.
that's what happened. That I could understand.
Everybody
Yes,
forgets he's
yes,
there,
but I mean, yeah, well, yeah, because he's just driving around by himself. It doesn't matter how many curbs
Cruising.
he hits.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter.
Curbs and birds.
Um,
Yeah.
right. A bird lost its life
His
for
lady
anyway.
rotisserie a
Yeah.
bird for an entire race and still won by 10 seconds. Like,
Quite a lot of wildlife there in Canada, though. At
yeah,
this race, I must say, it sounds
yeah.
like it's a wild scene with a lot of animals.
It's like a national park.
I think so. That's what it seems
Yeah,
like. I think there's just like yeah, I actually saw funny there's this guy who he was marshalling at the race and I saw him
hmm,
post a thing saying that he of course because he's marshalling so he didn't like see the race, so he watched it
yeah.
later on also when he got back home, and he said that there was I don't remember when this happened, but he said that there was a moment when he said on the broadcast Martin Brundle was confused why there was a red flag for like 30 seconds and then it went
Mm.
green again. Not red flag, a yellow, obviously. I meant for like 30 seconds and then it went back to green and he was like, "Oh, what was that? That was weird." And he said, "I can tell you what that was." He said there was a groundhog that was suicidal and was
Oh
pretty
my
close to
God.
getting vaporized by that like midfield DRS train. And so that was and then I guess he must have
Wow.
darted out of the way, and then everything was fine.
Oh my
So I'm
God.
tired. It's like a zoo over there in Canada. I don't know. There's a lot going on with the animals,
Mm.
and I feel
Yeah.
almost bad. Like we're obviously
Yeah, we're
invading
just all in
their
exactly. Their
we're
natural
invading
habitat.
their
It's their homes.
territory. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not cool. Imagine you're just trying to
Yeah.
like live your life, go find a nut to eat or something, and then there's Formula One cars driving by. Like that is not cool.
Yeah.
That is I don't know how it feels not so great. So hopefully,
Yeah. I
hopefully the
mean,
bird was the only casualty. Um,
maybe next
of
year, like the orcas in the ocean, maybe the groundhogs will revolt against the F1 stars.
that would be
We're
good.
gonna start to see rear wings getting taken off by the
Maybe,
groundhogs.
maybe. Or if you're an Alpine, yours might almost fall off on its own.
Honestly, yeah.
So yeah, that's that was wild.
Shimmying down. Yeah.
I expect to get some information or maybe clarity on that still because I imagine the FIA would have then checked it. Like they didn't do anything
Hmm.
at the time, but I think that I feel like after the race they probably would have been looking at it. I would think so,
Hopefully,
or hopefully they did. I mean, I really hope so because
because
that
that
looked
thing was just
scary.
hanging on by a prayer. Yeah.
They all pretended like it was no big deal,
Lando
and
was
it
the
was
only
an
one like, guys.
I mean, of course, at first I did think like, okay, Lando, like we get it.
Yeah.
You want them to call him in so that you can get that
True.
position,
Yeah.
and normally that is why people do that. But then when they showed it, really, I was like, yeah, okay, that's kind of concerning. And but they all played
Violently
it off like
wobbling.
no
Yeah.
big deal. They were like, no biggie.
Right.
After
If that was a
in
Haas,
the
they would have gotten they got the meatball flag and had them come in.
I
So
know, I know. I
another
mean,
reason why Gunther's
seriously.
always punching air. Yeah.
Well, he's got a point. And yeah, and then
Yeah.
after then the post race show, I remember they asked Esteban, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's no, they flex under load." I'm like, I
Not like that.
don't
Yeah.
think it's supposed to do that though, and then they were saying that like yeah, for Lando it was probably like a bit scary, like
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
imagine like you're right behind that, so if it were to come off, and if people don't know like
Coming
the
straight
that
at
rear
you.
wing, it would have been that whole. It's like it wasn't just like a piece of it; it was that
Yeah.
entire rear wing assembly, like that
The
whole thing. If that would
entire
have come,
thing. Yeah.
that is a giant, heavy, very very heavy
Yeah.
piece of the car, so that would have been like
Yeah.
a huge
Would have been a
disaster.
disaster. Hmm.
And yeah, I mean it so so luckily nothing like that happened and that's good, but yeah, I mean I hope that
Yeah.
maybe we'll get some more information in the intervening weeks or something, or eventually if they're because if the FIA checked it out. And I hope that they did. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, back to the Lewis
Yeah.
and Max and Alonso. I mean, it's all just a bit much.
Cut it
It's
out,
it's
guys.
a it's a bit much. Yeah,
Too
don't
much.
there's no
And Lewis
there.
posting the selfie.
I know I did
Blah.
die a little inside, but no, I knew he was. I was like 100% sure though he was gonna
Yeah.
post it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was sure he was gonna post it because that's
He's in a
just
good
Lewis. Like
place mentally.
he
Like, good for him.
he is. He's. I mean,
Me,
I
not so
honestly,
much.
I'm amazed. I'm
Yeah.
amazed. I continue to ask Lewis. We continue to ask. Drop the mental health routine.
What's
We
going on? Yeah.
continue to ask because it really needs to be talked about because a
Hmm.
lot of us could benefit from whatever it is you're
Studied. Could you
doing.
imagine humanity
Or,
if we all had Lewis Hamilton's positive mindset?
I mean,
We
we'd
could
be
do
like
anything we put our minds to.
superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No setback would be too big for us. No
Yeah.
disappointment. No, it would be amazing. I can't imagine. I mean, he's in such a
We'd all
good
be
like
friends.
I
Yeah.
envy him really. Not
Hmm.
for any of the other things even. I envy how at peace he is. And how
Yeah.
for him to say like I winced. I like when he in that post race press conference when he said, "Oh, it was so, I hope that we get back to how things were when we were close and we could race like it was in 2021." And I was like, I was like, for him to be able to speak that way about
Yeah.
that season, even putting aside the ending, like there was so much other
Yeah.
shit that
There's a whole lot of
happened.
stuff happened. Yeah.
There was so much stuff, and for him to be able to talk about it that way, like, "Oh, that was fun. We were really, it
Yeah.
was close racing," is just incredible.
Maybe
Like
his
he's
brain has done that thing with trauma where like he doesn't really remember all of it, at least the way that we
maybe.
remember it. Like
Well,
maybe
he
it's
did always
protecting
say,
him, you know?
yeah, he has always said he has a bad memory. Honestly, maybe
That's
that's like a protection
I
mechanism.
think his brain is protecting him because
I
if
think
he
that might
remembered
be it.
2021 how everybody else does, he would feel how
Yeah.
he felt. Like, you know, like, oh,
Right,
okay.
right.
Because we've been
You
defending this man
I think you're onto
against,
something.
yeah,
I think you're onto something. I think you're right. I think
yeah.
he just doesn't there yeah. There
He's just
it's
he's either choosing to like just let it all slide or his brain is protecting him. And maybe it's a
I
little bit of column A, a little bit of
yeah,
column B. Like
yeah,
maybe it's a
maybe.
combination. But
Maybe.
yeah, he's in an interesting headspace. I feel like he just him being this positive is a little scary to me. Um, you know what I mean?
I do
Like
know what you mean.
when a guy like that has not been broken down by all of the stuff that he has
Uh-huh.
faced and he has
Uh-huh.
chosen to just be at peace and almost
Mhm.
just like I'm enjoying it. I'm making friends. I'm having time of my life. I just feel like this
Yeah.
car that they're about to have and the season that he's going to have when this car is finally like it's possible for him to start competing for wins. I just feel like he's going to be an animal. Like he's just
Oh
like at
yeah.
this he's like I'm letting it go right now
Mhm.
because there's nothing
Mhm.
more I can do. The car
Yep.
is the car. We can make little change, but when
Yep.
I'm where I need to be, like all of this brotherly love thing, um, don't expect that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
I feel like
enjoy
there
it
would
while it
still
lasts.
be
Yeah.
like, yeah, right, right. Like I mean, he's always kind of, he's always kind of
Yeah.
like there's nothing really that different about the way he's behaved. Like he was always like when you look at you can look up people can look you can look up like old press conferences or old
Hmm.
time talking to like he was always like, he's joking around with people. He's always kind of
Yeah,
being,
of course.
he's always very like friendly and being, like there's one where and with everyone with Matt, like I remember
Hmm.
the one where I don't remember if they were in, I forget where they were, but he's like to Max, he was like, "Hey, there's so many girls here." He was like, "Do you have a girlfriend?" He started asking. He was like, "Yeah."
Max is just like didn't know how to answer this question.
Max was like, "What?" And
Yeah.
and it was just like he's always like
Yeah.
that's Lewis. And I think some of that is probably some kind of a like partially a protection or defense thing too, because when you're
Yeah.
in an environment like he is, being who he is, I think that there's definitely that desire to want to like put people at ease and be funny and be,
Yeah.
personable and be whatever, whereas other people don't really have that um
Right.
demonstrably don't don't have
Say the
that same
least. Yeah.
attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And but yeah, I think that one of the things that irritated me too with the kind of this discourse about the whole yeah, brotherly love thing, whatever, is
Oh my
that
God.
I mean, first of all, it's like it's again, it's like this willful denial of what this actually is. We all know what would actually be happening if these three guys were, had similar level cars and were
Truly
racing
competing.
each
Yes.
other for, yeah,
Yes.
or even just two out of the three of them,
Yes.
we all know that it wouldn't be all chummy and
Would
oh,
not be puppies and rainbows and like
yeah, there would not be
friendship bracelets. Like,
like what
no.
is this, again, like it's this pretending of
Yes.
that it is something it isn't. And then I did hear a lot of people, I feel like, saying that, oh, how impressive that was that Lewis had that level of humility to be like, I'm honored to be on the podium with two world
Mm-hmm.
champions, when he's
Right.
obviously won way more championships and way more everything, and people were like, and I think that on the one hand, it's funny though, because I did hear there was on one, I think it was on the Races podcast, actually. I'll call them out only for this. I do like their coverage overall, but they were like, it was actually like they took the opposite view a little bit. They were like,
Hmm.
oh, when Lewis, the thing, they were like, they were saying that it was like kind of a not a humble thing. They were saying that it was like because he said that it was like such a legendary podium that it was the best. So in their
Mm,
mind it was like because he was including himself in that, that it didn't feel like they only like joked around about it. They weren't really like,
right.
oh, Lewis has got a big head or whatever, but they but it was, I mean, if anyone could have a big head, it would be
It should be him. Yeah.
like first of all like
Yeah.
facts are facts. But yeah, it's like sometimes I get, do you ever get uncomfortable with like when people talk about his level of humility and how he's so gracious,
Absolutely.
and so it makes,
Because
yeah,
he
it
doesn't
make
have space to be anything other than that. He can't,
right.
like you said, he can't walk off a podium when,
No.
a race doesn't end well for
Mhm.
him. He can't really like, fire shots at people without it becoming,
Yep.
you know, a headline or something.
Mhm.
Basically this angry black man narrative that will definitely be weaponized against him. So he very
Yeah.
much cannot, he doesn't have the range of emotions that other drivers have. So
Mhm.
when I hear humility, like honestly, it does kind of annoy me because it's like he doesn't have a choice. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like he really doesn't have a choice but to be gracious
Mhm.
and treat people way better than they've ever treated him. So
Yeah.
yes, we joke like, yeah, I don't really love seeing the selfies and the like, but I don't expect him to have like harbor hatred or anything toward these people. But at the same time,
Right.
like I think people need to understand like you're asking him to break bread with people who are like racist toward him, like openly racist, or like with Max's, father-in-law. So we'll
Mhm.
call him that.
Yeah.
Defending that, saying like, oh, he's not racist, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
He has to like be around these people day in and day out, and he's already described many times how lonely he has felt in Formula One just because of his race
Right.
being like outcast. So
Mhm.
when I say like I hold grudges, like I truly mean that. Like I don't trust these people because when, like to your
Yep.
point, when they are in equal machinery, when the going gets tough, we're
Mhm.
gonna start to get back to the very unsavory sort of comments about Lewis, or like
Yep.
stuff with racial undertones, or like
Mhm.
their fan
Mhm.
bases will say shit. So yeah, I don't trust it. And so like that's why
Yeah.
for me it's just like the whole humility shit is very, very fake because again, you're not gonna let him be anything other than that. If he's not
Right.
humble, if he can't be like George. He should be
Mhm.
like George,
No.
but he's
I
not.
know.
He's not. But if he's anything less than humble, everybody will let him know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's almost like he's a prisoner in that sense, and it kind of sucks. But
Yeah.
if other people feel good about it, then I'm glad. But when
Yeah.
you
I
like
mean,
actually like
uh,
critique it for what it is, it does
yeah.
kind of sad.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I know that for some people, when they say it, I know it does come from a genuine place of respect,
Right.
where they really do. I know that they are sincere, and they, even if they're not mentioning all these other dynamics, that I know that they feel like that really is
Hmm.
admirable. And it is, on a certain level, of course, it's admirable to see,
Absolutely. Yeah.
when he said it, I was like, oh my God, like, it is, because it is
Yeah.
admirable for someone who's achieved everything he's achieved to be, whereas
Hmm.
as compare, like, let's compare and contrast to, for example, one Fernando Alonso, because
Right.
Max is not, for all his many faults, he's not one to actually, he doesn't really big himself up much. He's
Hmm.
very kind of just like whatever, he's
Right.
I'm just here to, he doesn't, he's not really,
He's
doesn't
like, I
make a big
clock in, I
deal.
clock out. Like that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
other than the number one and the gold boots, like
Right.
he's pretty, he's pretty chill about all that
Yeah.
type of stuff. And like when they ask him about he's broken some new record or he's done this, he's kind of just like, yeah, okay. He doesn't.
Right.
Um, let's compare and contrast with Fernando Alonso, for example, who every chance he gets is like,
Hmm.
well, I know what I'm doing, and I want to win this race, and I want, like,
Yeah.
he's got, or like when they asked him when he wasn't on the podium, obviously in Spain, uh the Rosanna Tennant asked him, but she's like, well, is this gonna, he's like, nope, we all podiums from here on out, basically. Like he was, and he's kind of joking, of course, but like,
Right.
but you kind of get the sense he's not really joking either,
Right.
because he pretty much believes like he's got all these years of. Uh, Again, let me just say, as a comparison, even to like George, you thought you were at Williams for 2 years too long. I hate to compare you to Fernando Alonso in some kind of positive light for Fernando Alonso, but like
Hmm.
for crying out loud, like
Yes.
you were.
Man
I mean,
was in limbo, yeah.
please. I'm sorry. Like I know he had already won 2 world championships
Yeah.
when all these other things befell him, but
Yeah.
I mean seriously. Like anyway, I mean even like Fernando, I think is probably quite an egomaniac. But I mean, they all are to some extent. But
Yeah.
but some are more George like than others.
On a scale of 1 to George Russell,
Yeah, right.
where are you at?
Yeah, and it really
How
has to
about
be
a
George
5 or
Russell
6,
because
Yeah.
Fernando's like okay, he's the way he is, but Fernando's also achieved a lot,
Two-time
and so
world
you could
champion,
say at
yeah.
least that's more. Yeah, I'm like George, you've won
Yeah.
one race. I repeat. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean in his mind it's probably two because like he
Well,
was
he
supposed
did
to
win
have
the
won
sprint
that one.
also that race, so I mean,
Right. That's I'm sure
yeah.
he counts that as an extra one.
Yeah.
You're
I
right.
mean,
You're right.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
No doubt. No doubt. No
So
doubt.
two-time race
Yeah.
winner, George
Yeah.
Russell.
Well, really three then, because he was supposed to have won that one in Sakir,
Exactly,
of
yeah.
course. So
Yeah.
really, it's a three time.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like
he's
two and a
he's
half,
probably
yeah.
already a world champion somehow,
Yeah.
too. So based on his own belief of his read of the situation, but yeah, I mean, it's tough with like Lewis. It always makes me feel a little bit sad, and it
Same.
always there's a lot of complicated feelings about it, and i
Mhm.
i just hope that he's um I hope that because it does seem like a lot of it also does seem genuine from him,
Yes.
for sure. Like there's yes, he's in sort of this position where he can't really say what he wants to say fully, but then he does seem to really genuinely be this kind of, and I mean
Mhm.
because that's how he's talked about it many times. Like that's how his dad told him to do his talking on the track,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
he's taken that very much to heart. He really believes in that. He's
Yeah.
really he's not going to be doing a George out here. uh
No. Yeah.
there were, even like the most you could say is like when he was younger. I mean, there were some of those moments like he was like they asked him something. I forget what was the situation of the race. They're like, how do you reflect on it was something that he's like, well, I won the race. So he was like that's the most you're gonna get from it. And that was like a
Yeah.
much younger Lewis.
Yeah,
And that's
some of
like
his, like, younger Lewis interviews are actually kind of funny. He's definitely
yeah,
has, like, a
yeah.
cockiness to him, but he's
Oh yeah, of
certainly, like,
course. Yeah.
calmed down,
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah.
and so, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that there's
Yeah.
just that mix of humility, a mix of, like, age. He's
Yeah,
definitely
that's how it should go, where I feel like
yeah,
there's a danger in
Alonso is
George
like,
going the
yeah,
other way.
that too, yeah.
I really do. I'm worried it could still go the other way.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Presumably it should go
It's
that like
ramping
once
up,
you've
yeah.
yeah, once you've won. I mean, even Max, like we actually don't know the answer. We don't know the answer with Max. Whether
No.
he of course now he's all chill because he's so far ahead and it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And so yes. But I do think there probably was some element of that, like once he got like that first championship, okay, even we could say the first real championship the following
Yeah.
year, like but in his mind now it's okay, two championships and he's gonna win a third. But I think it was with that, because he had been already raced, he came into Formula One with this belief that he was gonna, everyone felt that he was gonna be amazing, and Red Bull had all
Mhm.
this, and they were right, I guess as it turns out, and but for all those years that he didn't have as good a car, and then
Mhm.
finally and I think that the feeling definitely was on that whole team and for Max too, that like this is my chance. They didn't, they couldn't see into the future that they were gonna
Right.
get an Adrian Newey rocket ship for the next set of regulations, but they couldn't. They were like, well, this is the last year of these regulations,
Yeah.
and this is he. maybe he felt like this is it. This is going to be like my one chance potentially to, while
Absolutely,
this
that's how it
Lewis guy is
felt.
still here
Mhm.
and while Mercedes is still constantly dominating, like I can't, I can't be the world champion that everyone told me I
Yeah.
should be and that I was promised to be. And so he was like this desperation, obviously that whole
Yeah.
season, which, everyone's very familiar with. Would it be different now if they were, now he's got, but by the start of next season he'll have 3 championships, and
Mhm.
which is a lot
Yes.
already for, for anyone, and most people will be happy to win even one. And
Mhm.
and let's say like in next year or the year following, maybe let's say Mercedes is again at the front, maybe Aston too, I don't know, let's, other, will he we don't know. We don't know the answer to that. Um, but it is possible he will revert
I think
back
so.
to, yeah,
I mean, that's the
it's
hard thing though, is that, when the thing with Max is that, I mean, there's a reason he's called Crash Stoppin', like there's a reason why on the official Formula One YouTube there's a crash compilation for Max Verstappen.
uh-huh.
Like, this is his
Win it or bin
tactic.
it.
Yes, this is his
Yeah.
tactic, and so it's unfortunate to me, and this is the one thing I will say about Max as a because I do think he's talented and has talent, but I
Yeah,
think
of course.
truly the amount of coddling that people do for him
Mm,
really is to his detriment in the long run,
yeah.
because he's not able to develop himself as a driver and really
Mhm.
round out those parts of his racecraft that have been lacking for many years. Like the wheel to wheel is his biggest Achilles heel.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like he truly and he picks and chooses, and so that's how you know it's truly it depends on who he's racing because when it was him and
Mhm.
Charles at the beginning of last season,
Yeah.
suddenly it's, oh, he's wheeled, he can race fine.
Yeah.
Um, but like you said, when it's a Mercedes in his rear view, the it's a little different. But and so yes, I would love to see what him and Alonso when they finally have a similar, race pace,
True.
what that ends up
True.
being like.
Yeah, maybe that'll be fine
But
though, because
yeah.
that's where the real bromance is. It's actually
I
those
mean,
two.
I think that's a
Like
fake
that's
bromance too, because it's the same thing. Right now, Alonso,
that's
I see
true. That's
Alonso for who
true.
he is,
Yeah.
and he's very much like he gets in your head. And so I
Uh-huh.
think right now he's just kissing up to Red Bull and Max and whatever. But when he's able to compete with that man, he's gonna he's gonna treat him like every other competitor that he's had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's not gonna go soft on him because they're friends right now.
Right.
But
I
yeah, I
will
think
say
Max.
Alonso though is to his credit, he
Yeah.
doesn't have that amazing wheel to wheel.
Hmm.
He can race someone he
Yeah.
potentially, deeply dislikes,
Absolutely.
and not have that affect his racecraft,
Mhm.
not have that affect his ability to race them closely. Him and Lewis
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it is a generational thing, but I don't think that that's all it is. I
I think
really
it's a
don't.
yeah.
I think that that's part of it. I think that's what they like to pretend that it is
Yeah.
entirely that. But there's gotta be there. I mean, these people are only human. Like, think about
Yeah.
if you. I can. I think that I can. I'm not a Formula One driver, obviously, or not a racing driver of any kind. But we all human beings are human beings.
Yeah.
When it's someone that I can put myself in that situation when you're racing and it's someone who's who you're friendly with, or it's someone who
Mm.
you like, or it's someone who it's inevitable that it would affect how you approach the situation. I mean, it has to be. I
Mhm.
think that it takes a lot of maturity and a lot of experience to have it be where you can put that aside, like, because I don't think Fernando likes Lewis, but he's still able to race him without
Yeah.
crashing into him.
Yeah.
And like they've done that a lot. He's like that with pretty much everyone.
Mhm.
So he's very skilled in that area, and he
Yeah.
and that's something Max could learn from.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, like I actually kind of felt a little bit bad for Max. He again has said in the I can't remember the exact quote, but it was the same thing where it's like, yeah, I definitely don't see myself doing this. It's getting repetitive, blah 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 blah
Right.
blah. And I
Yeah.
knew this when he won in when they gave him the title in 2021. I was like, that victory was not earned, and he knows it,
Yeah.
and he can
Yeah.
claim it all he wants, but it's gonna eventually start to eat at him.
Mhm.
And right now,
Do you
we're only
really think? Because
I
I don't know if
absolutely
he
think
has
that.
any shame.
No, I think that in public he doesn't have any shame, but I think, like you said,
Hmm.
he's a human. Like, when you're just handed stuff
Maybe.
and everybody tells you you're the best and you're the great, would you really believe that? And right now he's at
Mm.
the point where he's not fighting other drivers on track.
Right.
He sails off in the distance. It's Alonso and Lewis having the time of their lives behind him,
Yeah.
going wheel to wheel. They're having a blast, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they're getting to actually compete. That's the whole reason that they want to be there. It
Mhm.
is about having the best car, but it's also about competing. And so when
Mhm.
you're at Max's point, the point where Max is at, where he's genuinely just competing against himself, he's hitting curbs and like he's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, but also he can't even like fully push the car. His engineers tell him more than one occasion, like, just bring it home, slow
Right.
down. So you
Yeah.
can't push at the front. You're not competing at the front. It's boring.
It's gotta
And
be
then
somewhat. It
And
has to
then
be.
there's all this background noise. Everybody's saying that all these victories you have aren't really deserved because, it was handed to you or you guys breached the cost cap, whatever. There's always going to be that little bit of like something that invalidates it. It eats at him. He's a racer. We've talked about this. Like, that's all he
Yeah.
lives, eats, breathes. And so imagine getting all these accolades. And maybe this is why he doesn't care about them, because I think deep down he just knows that, like, he's not competing against the best. And I think this is
Right.
why it's
Right.
interesting hearing Red Bull every week. They're winning by a mile, and yet they always have Mercedes on their mouth, in their,
Right.
and it's like because they want that old thing back. Like, they miss
I know,
having
you're
somebody to
right.
compete with.
Oh my
Um,
god, you're right, you're right.
so I don't know. I'm in like the psychology era. I'm like
I
breaking
think
these
you
guys
could be
down. I'm
onto
like, I
something,
see
yeah.
you for what you are.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
He's
that's one of the
bored.
things I enjoy the most about all of
Yeah.
this. I
Yeah.
I really I enjoy that aspect of it. I don't there are people who are like, "Well, we don't know them and we don't." I'm like, "Screw that." Like
Yeah.
it's interesting
We know
to
enough. We can make a judgment. Yeah.
we can make a yeah, I mean I feel like
I'm not
yeah, I feel
prescribing
like
a medication. I'm just
I
saying the
mean,
man looks bored, you
exactly.
know?
Yeah, I'm not diagnosing anyone with any disorders or anything. So being an asshole is not a disorder. So
Exactly. Well, yeah.
I mean, sadly. Sadly, if it was, maybe there'd be a cure.
Maybe.
But unfortunately not. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, you might. There could be something to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, because it's got to be. I mean, I'm always worried in general what's going to happen with Max when things
Yeah.
become more competitive, but especially when
Absolutely.
you're. I think that there is like. Fernando tried to paint Lewis with this brush once, which was complete bullshit. About saying like, "Oh, this guy only knows how to drive at the front." Remember when he made that
Yes.
comment? He was like,
Mhm.
but about Max, that might actually be true.
It might
Like
actually be true. Yeah.
he was never good at racing wheel to wheel, period. Even when he wasn't at the front. And now he's done is just be out
Mhm.
there without anyone, to be like so I'm like, well,
Yeah.
this is gonna be bad
It's
and
that
very
bad
messy.
habit. Yeah, I play tennis. I've played tennis since, like, high school, and that the
Oh,
one thing that's
cool.
and so I would be considered, like, late in life, most people
Mm,
start when they're, like, young.
right, right.
But I remembered, one of the ways that I learned how to play tennis was through just, like, watching on TV, and I would kinda, like, shadow box at home, because I couldn't
Aw.
afford, like, a private coach or whatever, so I would
Right.
just, like, teach myself how to do it,
Yeah.
and I always remember the commentators talk about, like, bad habits and, like, when you don't, like,
Mhm.
train out of your bad habits,
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah, yeah.
they stick with you, so, like, you could potentially injure yourself because you're swinging something incorrectly, or, like,
Right.
you're not using your body correctly, or you're not
Yeah.
it's just a bad habit. And so
Yeah.
I don't wanna call Max's racecraft a bad habit, but, like, let's just say for the sake of argument, like, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
It really leaves him so vulnerable because, you have cases like with George. George is not gonna back out. George knows his
Mm-mm.
game plan, so, whatever, you wanna crash, we'll both be out. He's
Yeah.
cool with that. Um, that can't be what you fall back on, especially as you are trying to, like, solidify yourself as like a good driver or a great driver.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's why I said like I think the amount of coddling that people do when they don't critique, it's fine to
Right.
critique him, and so I think when people don't do that, including people on his own team, it
Yeah.
really just sets him up. It truly sets him up. So I just see that I see somebody who is
Yeah.
talented, unfortunately, who has been allowed to have these bad habits for so long because like we're just supposed to accept that this is how he drives. Like, I don't think that that's fair to have
Yeah.
shitty driving standards when everybody else
Mhm.
around you, I think George mentioned this, like we all have a level of trust with each other,
Right.
besides a couple of, drivers. And
Yeah.
Max is for sure one of them. You can't trust that when you're next to him, he's not going to
Yeah.
crash into you. And I think that's
Yeah.
insane. Um, at this level of racing that you can't
Yeah.
be professional enough to like consider your fellow drivers. So
Yeah, and I mean
yeah.
like that makes me think again of the whole like Lewis humility thing because
Yeah.
Lewis is like that's one of the other things that annoys me is that when Lewis is humble and gracious, everyone's like fawning all over it and
Hmm.
falling all over themselves to praise it. When other drivers completely lack any humility
Right.
or are just kind of, whatever, like nobody looks upon that negatively, and sometimes
Yes.
it's even looked upon positively,
That's how they're supposed
like
to be.
that
They're
they're
great
yeah, that's
drivers.
how they're
Yeah.
exactly, they're racing
Yeah.
drivers. I mean, what do you
Hmm.
expect?
Right.
Like this, it's so it's just it's very irritating.
It's so
And
irritating. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I think there might be something to that actually. Now that
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about Max, you're right. Like that's something you can never really say whether someone's the greatest unless they've fought the greatest and won.
Absolutely.
And in 2021 we all know that was what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But people decided that that's that just wasn't good enough. And
Right.
when really it could have been amazing. But
Yeah.
yeah, and unless we see stuff like that again, I think we can, I mean, yeah, you could, I guess you could say
Yeah.
the same for some of, but I for some of the seasons where Mercedes were really dominant and Lewis was maybe only fighting his teammate, but there were, I mean, I think that they were closer still to
Hmm.
other teams. Like it was not this level.
It wasn't every race.
It
Yeah.
wasn't this bad. It was
It wasn't
like
200
there
lap
was at
split
least, yeah, yeah, it
in
was, I
eight
mean,
races. Like that's crazy. Yeah.
right, right. Oh my god, it's like it's all, and this is the other thing, like I've had to stop listening to like a few of the more, mainstream media type podcasts and things that I listen to about F1 because the Max and Alonso dick riding is
Mm.
just, I
Insane.
can't handle it. I can't handle it. The
Insane.
guys in a, yeah, they'll make some comment something about that he's in the dominant car, but he's in the form of his life. He's in, I'm like,
Masterclass. Yeah. What?
yeah,
Like,
I mean,
please.
I just I can't handle it. I can't. And
Yeah.
and Fernando, I mean, Lewis is only like 3 years younger than Fernando.
Right.
So if you're making a huge deal out of the fact that Fernando is doing what he's doing at his age, then I
Right.
guess you should be saying the same about Lewis, who's not that much younger.
Exactly.
It just gets to be so much. Like it's just like why is there this, why does it have to be this effusive and
Hmm.
this much, over, it just feels like over the top. Like is
It's
it because
insane.
they feel like they have to make it seem like he's this superhero because yeah, he has this very dominant car, and if you dare
Hmm.
to say that maybe it has something, of course it's not just the car, of course, because Checo's obviously not doing much with it.
Right.
Of course it's not just the car. Of course he's immensely talented, but it's like it's almost like it's over. Whereas when people talk about Lewis, it's kind of like, oh yeah,
The
Lewis, like
car.
he's just
Yeah.
good, or like it's like expected that Lewis is really good. So it's like it's a non-event. It's a
Yeah.
non-event when Lewis does something well,
Yeah.
or even other drivers sometimes. It's
Yeah.
a, but mostly Lewis. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, like whatever.
Yeah.
Max
Yeah.
also, it should be a non-event at this point for Max. Like
Absolutely.
where he's extremely good. He's in an extremely good car. He's
Hmm.
proven, he's really proven himself already at this point. Why this insanity still?
The tall
Like
tales,
of
you know.
I don't really I don't get it. I don't
It's
get it.
weird,
I
and
don't
it
get
does
it.
make you question people's credibility in terms of like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah. I
what
mean,
are
if
you?
you're like a fan, cool, but
You don't
like
want to be like,
that's
yeah, this is
not
boring. The guy's in the lead every race, but at the same
right.
time, like, come on, like all he has to do is keep it in between the two lines. And I mean, sometimes he's not even able to do that. So I think that's kind of funny. You're
Yeah.
not really racing anybody, and you're still,
Yeah.
going out of track limits. But whatever, that's here nor there.
I mean,
Um,
there are still things you could say. You could say like there was sometimes it's things that are valid, but like
yes,
when they in Miami when he had that great he had such he did do an amazing job there. You could say especially because he was coming from ninth or
yeah,
whatever it was because he had that issue with qualifying and it was and he did have an amazing stint on I can't remember. I think it was like the hard tire like he went faster on like old hards than Checo went on like new. Yes, talk about stuff like that. Say that. Say go ahead. That's at least something based in reality.
yeah,
Where it's like, okay, you can clearly see that he's
yeah.
more skilled than his teammate, he's more skilled than some of these other people obviously too. But it's like it just gets to
Mhm.
be so much.
It's a
It's
lot. It's like,
it's
come on, guys.
overkill. It's
Yeah.
overkill. Like
It's like they're
why?
overselling it. You're over. We get it.
I
You
don't
know,
I don't
turn it
understand
down a
where
notch. You're at a 10,
I'm
take it
gonna
to a
need to
two.
one of these days. We need to go back and watch a race from
Mm,
like the height of Mercedes dominance when
mhm.
Lewis was, and let's listen and see if they talk
Yeah,
about him in the same way. Maybe they did. I will eat
maybe.
my words if they talked about him in the same way. I will gladly admit it, but I have a feeling that
Mm,
maybe not.
probably not. Yeah.
I just have a strong feeling. Yeah.
Mm,
So, all right, we have to
mm,
get to our tweet of the week, which, of course, you're eligible to win and win absolutely nothing except our love and admiration. Uh, and to
yeah,
be
Grace,
eligible
thank you.
to be eligible to win this great prize of our respect and admiration, all you have to do is reply to any of our tweets with a funny comment, a GIF. In this case, it was actually someone that replied with a GIF, and or whatever else. I mean, I guess I might someday pick something that's not necessarily funny, but is very interesting and insightful. It could happen. It hasn't so far, but it could. I guess I go more for the funny ones, because those are the ones that make you laugh and then make you happy. So this was a tweet from their username is that's rich, but with two S's. So cool. That's rich. Anyway, it was in response to my tweet, which is quote tweeting this guy who actually is really cool. I quote tweeted this person. His Twitter username is New Gaiden, which is like a play on Newgarden, Joseph Newgarden, who's an IndyCar driver,
Mhm.
and so he is a gay IndyCar fan, and he he posted something so funny, which actually his was a quote, so it wasn't he didn't originate the idea, but it was I don't know who did. Maybe it was the tweet that he. It's like when you try to find out where the things come from on Twitter. It's like
You
it's
go
like
down the
that.
rabbit hole.
It's
Yeah.
yeah. It's like that. It's like that. It's like that gif of like the when you look in the mirror and then you see that, and if you just keep going, keeps going, keeps going. So yeah, I don't know, but it was like somebody had tweeted like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So who this goes back several layers. I can't even find the original, but people were like saying a rainbow shirt in Target won't turn your kids gay, but blank will. So people put in like somebody. So the one before his was watching football will, and they had this picture of like this very like this guy, these football players and these very homoerotic poses. And then so this guy who is his name is Alex the Newgate, and he posted a rainbow shirt in Target won't turn you gay, but watching IndyCar will. And he posted 4 photos of some of the good-looking IndyCar drivers, I guess, in his opinion. But his were all very like they were all wearing just their race suits, and then I was like,
Right.
this is I want to take it up a notch. So when I posted for my account, I was like, a rainbow shirt in Target won't turn your kids gay, but watching F1 will. And all of mine were 4 shirtless pics of I had Lewis, Carlos, Charles, and Pierre, and they were just
Nice.
like complete himbo, uh all 4. I'm very proud. I'm very proud of the ones I've chosen. I mean, there's many others that one could have used. And that's Rich replied with like the gif of like, I don't know if you ever seen it, but it's like this it's like a bird and suddenly these like binoculars come out and a bag of popcorn comes up, and anyway, I'll post the link, you
Yeah,
can see. So he's like, yeah. So he's like, oh, well, let me get a good look
yeah.
at this. This is good. And it just made me laugh so much because
That's
like that's
funny.
how we look at like those photos. I feel like, I'm
Absolutely.
like looking respectfully, but
Maybe
I
I will
am
watch Formula
I'm
One. You're
looking,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if this is someone who currently watches it or not, but if not, I
Yeah.
think we have a new fan on our hands, I'm
Yes.
sure, because, they're
Come
they're
for the thirst traps. Stay for the
stay for the
racing. Yeah.
racing. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, why not? Why not enjoy both? There's
Yeah,
absolutely nothing wrong with enjoying both. They're
exactly.
they're both wonderful. I mean, these drivers are doing like, listen, like I'm not like no one's seeking this out. They're posting this stuff constantly. So and God bless them. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you for
So
your
I
service.
appreciated that gift very much. I mean, that's how I look at like those. It's definitely like those, or like those. Have you seen like those? There's videos of a lot of time Lewis when he gets in the car, he adjusts
Oh,
things.
adjust. Oh, Lord.
Done.
I'm like,
It's.
am I supposed to be seeing this? Like,
I know it feels like
can
I'm
we
like,
put a
this
sensor
is.
bar over this?
I know. I mean,
It's all avert
it's
your eyes.
definitely
Avert your eyes. Yeah.
you can really see like it's I mean the
Yeah.
stuff is
He's blessed. Yeah.
kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
it's those, I mean, those suits are pretty snug, and then if you're
Yeah.
especially if you're gonna start messing around
It
down
does kind
there,
of
then
suck though. Like, I
it's
feel like those things are super, like, not tailored well for the
yeah,
crotch
no,
area.
they're
Like,
yeah,
could
yeah,
you
I'm
imagine having
sure
like a
it's
wedgie for like
I
50 or
can't.
70 laps? Like, oh my
Oh my
God.
god, that would be horrible.
You can't like
Nightmare.
reach down to pick it out. It's like
No, you
so
can't.
tight
You
in there.
can't. There's no room for that. No.
So yeah.
You
Another reason
can't
why
do
he's
it.
the GOAT. Yeah. He's just able to block out all of that. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that stuff like that
ay,
has
ay,
happened
ay.
to like where maybe it's not a wedgie, but like other things. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
but
I'm
yeah.
sure there have been things. I mean, there's
Chasing.
that
Yeah.
like famous radio like when Sebastian Vettel was like, "There's something around between my legs. It's not what I." He was like, it was like he was saying like it was like between like his by his feet, or he's like
Yeah.
it's not what I'd like to be able to say, and that's like Sebastian, of course, to a T, because
Right.
he's always like raunchy, and he was like I don't know if people are aware, by the way, he posts these like, I don't know who's running his Instagram, if it's actually him or someone else, but he has remained the same actually, and if it's not him, then it's someone who knows him extremely well, because he'll post these things on Instagram with these like captions that I'm just like, oh my god! Like he had the because he does very like a lot of historic stuff like from his early life or career or whatever
Yeah.
things. Like there was one, it was one I think it was like a picture of him, and because him and his wife met when they were very young.
Hmm.
And so there was like a picture of them when they were young and they was older, and he was like, I had to push really hard or something like that. And I was like, Sebastian, what is? I'm like,
Funny.
this is yeah, but he's just like always been that way. But yeah, but it's yeah. So thank you for that chuckle. We appreciate it and hope you enjoyed those photos. I hope everyone enjoyed those photos, because they're very nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now. Okay, that's enough. Um, we must wrap up. But yeah, I mean, I think Canada was a good
Yeah.
race overall.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
let's
agree.
just yeah, it was I think this was one of the yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it a lot because there was a lot of good stuff going on.
There was. It
There
was
was a
a
lot
pretty
of
eventful.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was not it had every race has that moment when you're like,
Yeah.
okay, but overall it was good. I give it
Yeah,
like a
it had good energy. I think especially with
yeah.
Alonso and Lewis fighting at the front, like gave it that energy
Yeah,
at the
that's
front that
always
you were
fun.
kind of
Yes.
missing. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
They're really carrying this whole season,
they are.
I think,
They are. That's a
because
conversation for
it's
another time. Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Okay, so thank you guys for listening and or watching. If you've
Thank
gotten this
you.
far, don't forget to again rate and review us, all that good stuff. Help us out with all that. You can email
Hmm.
us if you'd like. We are at racingincidentpod@gmail.com, racingincidentpod@gmail.com. And if you have any thoughts, or if you want to tell us who you think are the top 5 best looking drivers, let us know.
I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
Whether
Send
George
pics. Yeah.
Russell is in there or not, let us know. Let us know if you watched the Grandstand. Again, I'm sorry if you did. This is pretty bad. But yeah,
Yeah.
let us know what you thought, and let us know about any thoughts, comments, questions, or suggestions you have. We're always happy to listen to them and take them on board or not. We're in charge, so if we can just ignore you, but we'll at least hear you out.
We'll entertain it.
And yeah, yeah. And yeah, I guess that's you can also visit racingincident.com, of course, for show notes and all our episodes. You can find the show notes in your
Yeah.
podcast app too, but if you ever want to go on our website, you can find everything there. And yeah, that's it for us this week, I think. We will talk to you guys next week. There's no race, so we will see what we have going on. Stay tuned. Maybe something interesting or exciting. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll
Mm.
see.
All
Get our
right.
binoculars and our popcorn
Yeah,
out. We'll see.
exactly. Exactly right.
We'll
But
take a
yeah.
look at what we have going on. Yeah.
What's happening?
We'll
Maybe
pull some
we'll
outfits
watch.
for Ted Kravitz. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Ted. So yeah, until next week, guys. Bye.
Bye.